Endless Wars 2. Welcome back. It's Golden Cowboy with Appalachian Intelligence. Just trying to make sure that I've explained this thoroughly. But moving on to a modern time. We're involved in a Cold War with that which was Russia. The Soviet Union, more precisely. It no longer exists. Technically, it went as long as it could, fighting the war in the baton relay system to the point that its own government fell completely. It was a one-party system that, as much as it tried to hold the line against the Nazis and be like it was the first closest line of defense of those that had stood up and not been totally occupied in some way or else cornered off and were just constantly being shelled and bombarded like an unoccupied France. Listening to them say, "I surrender completely," or the finish of my blood, or finality of it, is yours. It's what they made them say in France as they were bombing their little area over and over until there were none left. In the endless wars, what we are doing right now is the Cold War really was just them going and replacing the Axis powers, all those in Russia that they could, making sure that they were replaced all completely underneath the radar of each and every single person. This was the truth of what it was. Their population was crippled enough by everything. Their systems of the community, under their communalism, if you were a community of Russians or those underneath the Union of the Soviet Republics, you were safe. If you were an ally of them, you were safe. They did not allow anyone into their area. This is the fact. We fought a war based off of manipulation from Rome. Soviet Union being so close, it's easier to travel over land or by a short amount of water. They had to do a whole lot to get past everything, going all around, going all around, going all the way around the world. Into the USA. China had a strategic situation that they would not let anyone in for several hundred years and have been basically closed off. It's still easy to infiltrate to China, but not precisely. In the Soviet Union, Rome proceeded to remove anything that was of their great pioneering situation. And you're like, isn't the USA the great pioneering situation? No, the Soviet Union is. They even allow their people to own guns and other things and go hunting. as long as they can prove that they were good enough to go hunting, had tracking skills and everything else. Mine have been basically removed from me. I'm so bad I can barely navigate a grocery store nowadays. But outside of hunting season, I can find any animal you want to and get you within petting distance of it. It's just that hunting season. The rest of the Golden Cowboy's skills are formidable. Or am I trying to con you? Trust everything else for the man in a mask. As Rome has done and pillaged underneath the Third Reich, for what it needed to, it removed people, skills, women, men, to augmentate itself from the Soviet Union, and has made itself the epitome of taking care of anyone in the community, homeless, or anything else, and issued a pioneering spirit where they are the first to colonize underneath their water and have farms for strawberries and everything else, and not even overutilizing their land, bringing back animals such as the wolf, red stag, and everything else that were killed off completely, and even their lands deforested from the amount of bombs that were dropped upon them, and their own scorched earth principles, and how to re-terraform and save seeds and everything else. The Soviet Union's long history of scorched earth. This was of primary importance to the situation of the Mussolini Empire and its conjunction situation underneath its mantle that it passed on to the Pope. That we can all say, in some way of seriousness to comedy, that the Pope wrestles with this poisonous mantle that is put upon him at all times from the Roman empirical usurper Mussolini, since he is Eastern Orthodox and the emperor of the Eastern Orthodoxy. Even as much as most of his descendants that we brought here because we were so nice and removed from the situation just came here and destabilized the country even more in the process of the Cold War. Here with the USA and everything, we are probably the most welcoming socialist group of people that you will ever meet, simply by our own nature of anyone coming here, because this is a nation of immigrants. Other than our situation going, we can't control our young from dying, even if they are immigrants, from drugs or anything, from the numerous gangs south of the border. And I could say just as much in this area here. We have border Mussolinis and serial killers that go back and forth across. I'll refer you to a 60 Minutes piece a few years ago over things from the Blackfoot to Sioux reservation and over across the border into Canada, where numerous Native American women are being targeted, similar to the Zoo Man crimes that happened here, that only had one public convicted person and only 5 public victims in its cover-up. I can tell you just from the street, being a young boy, playing in the last woods that was around the city with any friends that could, there's just way too many cliques and too many prides or packs of the different Zoo Man groups. Just as we were manipulated by Rome with the Soviet Union and us, the USA, we are now being manipulated completely and fully with China. We have absolutely nothing to gain and influence other than to go down and say that we have no free will of helping anyone. And we'll be forced to help people because while Russia lost its pioneering spirit and abilities, it has 100% had to turn over its pioneering everything to Rome. It's the only way that it can hold its vast Siberian areas. China, if it was further south, we'd be blaming Australia. But the USA and China are now locked in a global Cold War, basically. Could we say that the USA and China, it's just a baton handoff? I don't think so, because we have so much of a populist movement and socialism coming that we will be forced to socialize because the Mussolinis really cannot understand or survive here. And they will come here, and that's just what will happen. They already have a colony here in 3 areas that they have came to. And from there, they will spread out as we will help them, just like how you would say under age discrimination, we were training our replacements. And their main target is the removal of Native Americans, for there is no tribal but them. Even though they are only supposed to be doing this in the Eastern Orthodox areas of that which is Constantinople, now Istanbul. We have basically been suckered in, no different than the Russians were, going after Islam's main people. Islam said that through basically intellect and knowledge, they knew we were no longer the USA that came to help them in World War II when they were being genocided and their people being taken off and indoctrinated to being warriors, and said that they were Muslims of the faith of Constantinople and Byzantium. We have basically gone out there in order to make a pit desert all across from North Africa through Arabia, Turkey, and up into the unknown areas where only the strongest super people in the world, according to the Mussolinis, and the most manipulative, Tibet, and those areas where it is completely inhospitable to them, could live at. And we will cut this all the way up into the backside of Russia, behind its Ural Mountains. Or Russia will do it itself in unification with the USA, and when China falls, they will turn their eyes to Europe. We can say that it's a baton relay handoff and everything, but it is not. It is to change us completely over to where they can be utilized. China sees this and is preparing. And I'm going to tell you, we will live in the day when there is no black pepper. Or any type of pepper, other than maybe cayenne, if we can keep the seeds here. China, I'm sorry, is our buddy. We're very bad off on a lot of stuff, but the Mussolini Empire has had its people in China for quite a while. They just, as they say, never returned, because why would you give up such a place where you can be there and no one knows that you're Eastern Orthodox? It's one of the reasons why China is doing everything out there to try and push the Uyghurs, since they are a Turkic people, out. They want them out. They want a formal thing by what is left of Byzantium to say that they were never at the head of the Yellow River, and that there is no reason for any Christianity or anything to be there other than a traveling group that can be and will be removed, like the United States had before then, just as Russia had under almost everything out there before them, until the Tsars took over and basically brought Christianity to most of the Slavic peoples. China even wants and will help send, even though Israel says they're too far from them, every Xinjiang Jew out there. And they will have no one of Christianity within inside their borders. To the Mussolinis, this is fine. They want to move there because it is their great bank. They don't want to have to live underneath Christianity while they're in China, but they will. They look at the USA as the new Holy Roman Empire and its reestablishment from the Clash of Eagles. They look at Russia as basically an expansion of its farmland, and through global warming and other new practices and technologies that will be given to them, that other people will move up, such as fertilizer. One of the things they championed and gave Germany so much extra printed Reichmarks, since they printed them even in Rome. And they weren't considered a check card or rations swipe card. That's where we got it from. China, in its preparations over this, has reminded Iran, for all governments of China are still tribal. It has taken part of its water, strategic river. They do have enough water that they can truck in from another place, but it is supposed to remind them over their tribalistic connection to the princess of Marco Polo. Not even Marco Polo, the greatest adventurer and everything else of the Roman people, of Italy, of their kingships and everything, could even touch the beauty of China. They would not touch one of their women or anything that is from there. They may have women, and yes, you're going to say, how can you mistake a golden beach bunny Italian with dark hair and dark eyes for someone who is from China? It can happen. I've noticed numerous people. China has made a fight with India. India cannot come back to anyone and call it its brother. And in hostilities that have gone on for generations across ethnic classes and religious classes, races and everything, only India is the only country that can be like, leave this problem to me, my brother, and you will never have to deal with it again. Simply between, and you can say I'm quoting Slumdog Millionaire, with his mother and another, but that is simply the way that it can be done, and there will be no problems of it ever again. This will take, just like before in the 70s, when India sided with China against Russia and the USA, and here in Appalachia, we had a pepper shortage. There's no pepper that was delivered to the USA since India was the main producer, as well as that which were different islands in the Pacific archipelago to this area. Now, I know there's other extenuating circumstances that they would not have that delivered here, and they would deliver it to California or New York or one of the other busier areas. And yes, black pepper can mean a lot to people. Underneath all of this, the fight with China is mostly so that they can have so many warriors go against each other in culture, in tribalistic culture, where we have been moved more towards secularism and constructation. After so long, they will come back together, and this will be the end of it. Also, the Dalai Lama. Tibet and China and Bhutan. These are Buddhist republics or Buddhist kingships in a way. They are by that which is a reincarnation leader. One of their leaders has gone into hiding and has not been seen for quite some time. The spiritual leader of Bhutan, I am not sure how to really say, but there is one. The Dalai Lama is now no longer exiled in California. It's something that's too dangerous for him. He's gone to India to live and has been welcomed there. In order to consolidate all of this and make a continual wall that will go all the way to Southeast Asia and the tip of the Malay Peninsula, and anywhere that there could possibly be a relic of the Buddhist situation, which will come over into Seoul and some of the others, and possibly even over into the archipelagos of Papua New Guinea and Malaysia, due to their unified government and down to Singapore. They will protect the anonymity and respect everything so long as there is open cooperation at the top level of the governments over knowledge how and where and why everything will transition between the Dalai Lama, the spiritual leader in Nepal, who is in hiding now, and Bhutan. There will be no other situational problems with them. Their people will be able to travel without extra fees or taxes to the other areas. In between the different kingdoms, their monks will be able to have open rites of passage, same as the Shaolin with their abbots. They will just be informing and going straight to that which is the Chinese government. One day, maybe, there may be, but I do not think so, separation after complete reconstruction and them knowing the secrets of the Dalai Lama and the spiritual leader of Nepal and the spiritual leadership of Bhutan. Although I've heard that it is such a standoff there that there will be nothing, or else they'll only pose the question 40 years after the next one of the three. And since this is a 3, which does kind of have a 4 down Malaysia, but sort of not really, Mussolini eyes this area as a soft spot moving into the area. So Rome has a way of manipulating the USA, which is basically just the English-speaking world, Great Britain, which, due to the removal of the Eisenhower Doctrine, we now can just say, screw off. They're a kingship. We thought we might get embroiled in some sort of civil war or something else, or look like we were colonizing Africa because of the Israeli king, but we just wanted to get rid of it so we could go, see ya, Great Britain. Australia and New Zealand, you're like with us, aren't you? What happened to India? Oh, they changed their national language to Spanish instead of English. So they can have more to do with the possibility of being humanitarian to Mexico or any of the migrant workers there. India has a tradition of migrant workers, so does Iran, Pakistan, and several of the areas out there. Migrant caravans, everything else still exist. Looking at all of it, China has sectioned off a new China wall, or an expanded one of it. YouTube even says, that I'm putting this on, they go north and will take off half of Siberia because their people just keep going in there because it's a porous border, and Mongolia is being changed over to Chinese language because it's a safer situation. I'll be honest, Mongolia will be the part that whenever the USA is knocked out because of the Cold War and we are a socialist slave situation, to making Mussolini the great only race to live here. Mongolia will be the downfall of China, simply because it will not relinquish its language or anything else, and China is not the greatest, and its only shortcoming that I can really see of a major future event being open to cultures and other republics coming in, like we had with Texas, which truly is, as everyone knows in the USA, almost a completely separate other country that just somehow still tags and holds along with it. California likes to pretend to be that and looks at Utah and Nevada and says, them, we're like Texas and them. Alaska hasn't even really been a state 100 years, and neither has Hawaii. In and of this, China is supposed to be taken over. The fact that it has no Christianity is great for the Mussolinis and for Rome, and will be made into the capitalistic giant that it is. And the Golden Cowboy, being with Appalachia Intelligence, where we can find out almost anything through our just existence of networking, because we're all the stupidest Dolly Partons in the entire world, and just think with some sort of genitals, has came up with basically how China's been made into a capitalist society through its own military and secret police. But that's for another time. In and of this, the capitalistic society is that China will be the place of millions of dollars. The cowboy pioneer of the United States, if it lives anywhere, will live in Russia. The yuppie millionaire of the world be in China. The USA will take all those that are needing to be of kind of a socialistic empire, so to speak of. A constant hand in hand out, as basically its stock market will be reduced and gotten rid of, and only what's popular. And then as soon as that fad goes away from that section of 5 or 6 presidents, it'll just be over and gone. And those will just come crashing down underneath. Do I think we have more? I think we only have 2 more pillars in the United States to go. I think we might have 3, which is the demise of the combustible engine, but I think it'll be the last one to go, just like the American Buggy Whip Company. Everything in the world from inner cities will be used against it. Racism, everything else, low-lying areas where most black people in the South or other areas live at, because it's easy to go in, build it up, lots of mosquitoes, floods, everything. Any place that's poor will be there. And if demographics keep changing, it'll probably be clogged, congested cities. And we'll switch over and we'll finally be here if it's 20 or 30 years from now. The progression of 20 or 30 years, you don't see white people on television. And I really am not trying to play the race card. With an automatic house or even the ability to lock the house with their phone. Maybe now and then you see someone with a doorbell cam. But the George Jetson house is the black person's house as far as it is in the public. And it is changing rapidly. You would never have that 20, 30 years ago. No one would even think of it 20, 30 years ago. And as things move up, that which is left on the inside areas of the city, as we have seen with, you can say it's strategic news or something else, the groups that have their businesses blown out and everything are Koreans and Orientals in a lot of the big major coastal cities. The inner cities, it's still black and white. But if this is changing more and more, you'll see the urban area centers having more and more Orientals. Not necessarily Chinese, but Orientals. They continually, steadily come here because they want something different from China. You continually, steadily see people coming into the areas and filling in that are Iranian, the Eastern Turkic or Islamic peoples. You see more and more people from Southeast Asia coming here, having children. Somehow they're kept in check. There are more television shows like the one Fresh Off the Boat that show Oriental immigrants as good neighbors and friends. King of the Hill, even if it's meant for comedic banter. It is the time for Orientals to be immigrating to the USA. And in 20 or 30 years, as it is under any major immigrant population, all the other populations move out and they move into these areas. It's set up just as the rejection of Eastern Orthodox people from the United States, and that's mostly changed. Yes, you can say whatever, but First Lady Melania Trump being from Eastern Europe. China, Iran, all of this is old ancient history, you can say. But they follow a different type of tribalism and follow ancient history. Iran and other areas are still separate from most of Arabia and most of North Africa. We have not a lot. And all of this down to Southeast Asia, including will be against the USA. We have to rebuild all of our manufacturing, rebuild all of that, which then will be turned around and will be too expensive. So you'll have to give it to as a credit to the poorer groups. The China virus has brought discrimination and everything else, even though it's discriminatory against Europeans and Spanish, just like the Spanish influenza. They still call it the Spanish flu instead of flu 1912. With the China virus, this will go against the USA. We will be effectively cutting off one of the biggest areas for spiritualism for the USA, non-Christianity. We will be cutting off basically the entire Pacific, opening it up to France and its monarchy, being that it has a tribalistic situation to be in Polynesia off of its Bible. And if we go to a Bible under Christianity, we are obligated to let them be around their heaven. Furthermore, in pushing this envelope a little bit further, we will be effectively making what is called the Third Earth scenario. Africa and Europe will be Middle Earth, known of as First Earth. And there will be a black and white situation over there. The USA will be cut off and only dealing with itself, and no one will want to immigrate to it because Europeans have been alienated. Blacks from Africa have been alienated, as well as that which is South Pacific. But more notably, Chinese people will be alienated from here, and you can say that's perfect for a Native American standpoint. In and of this, with the Mussolinis, they will be here for their socialization and basically kind of like, I don't know. I hate using this terminology because they used it with me because I was in special ed and everything. Some said it was for my own protection because it couldn't be allowed around people. You're just a retarded pity fuck. And the Mussolinis, as far as I know around here, enjoy everything in the world with absolutely no ability to socialize, to do anything, and basically just stand there, stare at somebody, and are basically like little retarded fucks. That somehow, whenever they're not doing their own and having kids on the side and having their lawsuits to say that they don't have to do anything because they're just genetically upgrading everybody, it is interesting. Say the least, that people will just bend over backwards, even if they're not Native American, and if they're a Native American on their reservation, not pointing at anyone's locally, because there's some of them out there in the hidden areas that you would never think of. They get huge checks for still housing them because they're such dangerous war criminals, no matter how many people they lose. If they lose a person, it's more than a year's worth of gambling money for them still working these people. I've yet to find a gambling check situation that I can think of that these natural tribalistic people of psychology have came close to if they lose one of their family members for any reason with one of the Mussolinis. In saying that, we will be made over into almost a socializational help, because no matter what, being left in a tribalistic situation, even with 2,000 to 180 people on a constant rotation with people, like a giant high school or a little town that's just got one or two people that are kind of annoying, they'll just learn how to be that good at socialization and manipulation. They will take from there inevitably. And I'm not trying to say that these are weak people in any way, but there is a reason why they rotate every 18 months FBI people for serial killers. The psychological damage is immense at the individual level. There is no way that broadened over, no matter how much a tribalistic situation is, that one cannot have psychological damage after so long. With them, they will be moving off here shortly, or else starting right now, during the NORAD time as they look at it. Started up about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And everybody says my mind's slipping because I made a post on my former Facebook page that I got rid of, because there's just too many hackers that go back through it to try and zap and hack you. I had one that didn't have my name on it. Not a problem with it. Just kept it up forever. And as soon as I put something on there that kind of halfway identified me and said I was still alive or something, it started up within an hour. The other one I had on for years. And I just knew that there was a major change coming, because 2 or 3 people got in under a fluke with the Trump administration. Which I say is that one fluke is every single thing that happened right now. From the beginning of it to the end. Even before he was really president-elect. I can't really prove these 2 people. I can't really say anything. And at the end of the day, if they actually knew, I'd say that they would have a shot that they would take that would turn them into a man or a woman from their opposite sex. Moving along from this, I just heard one of them hacking through from out at the phone. It makes my eyes vibrate. They found out that I have this website. It's why you never let them see your face. Should have been wearing reflective glasses for ocular scans. I love it when they say, "You've got enemies." It's like, and you would contact me like that as a friend. That's why the Golden Cowboy has glasses. China will be turned into the capitalist society that it is. It's been mined so much, they make jokes in the Mussolinis that they took all the salt out of it, just so that they wouldn't have to take the salt out of the sea next to them in Rome. And all the salt from it made it collapse and had the great Chinese fertile plains. And that's how they got rid of all the mountains for them. And that they've been doing this since before the time of Marco Polo. And they would just pretend that they were lost expeditions. Just like when they pretended to be lost expeditions and came to the United States of America, conning the different emperors of Japan and China and trying to master the secret known things of travel known of as the Kais, where they mistook it for instant teleportation rather than flight. With this, China will be turned into a yuppie paradise oligarchy. reminiscent of the 80s. One can find every food eaten to excess, still kind of be like a little chunky person is still really good looking over there. And moving on to all of that and letting the Mussolinis moving over there because they have family already there established for 1,000 years to 1,200. Yes, before the time of Marco Polo. And indulge in all of that which is a closed market economy of capitalism the way it was, and not evil, backstabbing, murderous in a way, friendly competition where it's like, oh, I've seen that. I know I can strike this lighter like this. Someone else saw it took me 2 times, and they go, I can do this 1 time. And they light someone's cigarette for 2 of their pennies. All day long under a capitalist society. They don't try to kill the other person because they have a cigarette lighter. They even go, oh, you got 687 today. Yeah, that's right. I know you got 13 more than me. Next day, said that, got 726. And the other guy that got the 687, well, he only got 703. I'll get you next time. They didn't kill him. They didn't do anything like that. But here is the absolute situation. And after the big 3 powers of manpower are taken out, and Africa is thoroughly kept only in itself, underneath the best friend emperor, as they call it, will come forth, and they will be able to bring all the kings underneath that which is the rule of an emperor, and governors or presidents will only be known of as such. I'm not sure what else to say here. This is the Golden Cowboy with Appalachia Intelligence. Signing off.